Hello and welcome to the Real Housewives of Alaska. This is Diane.
And it's Britney, bitch.
No, it's really Marnell, but it's Britney, bitch.
Right? This is Marnell, and we are here to podcast the New York Times Presents Framing Britney Spears on Hulu. And it's really, really not what you think.
No, and I'm going to just disclose completely right up front. So I was not totally into this. I said to you when we were signing on tonight, yeah, I watched the Glee episode where they remade some Britney songs, and I was like, that's kind of cool. But I've never, Britney Spears was not my era. It was not my jam. So when I started watching it, I was kind of like, okay. And then I got sucked in. And I got so angry while I was watching it. Oh my God, so angry. In fact, you sent me that awesome song by is it Lola Blanc?
Blanc? I think so, yeah.
Called Blanc. Angry 2. I highly recommend it. I'll try to remember to post it on the Housewives. Because it's a great song and it totally was perfect for the reaction I was having to the documentary.
Right? You even posted on Facebook that it was making you mad.
Oh, I was furious. And I had to go and do some errands, and then I met a friend for breakfast, and I came back and finished it up, and I was like, I'm still angry.
And you would be angry too, like Lola Blanc.
Oh my God, completely. Okay, so this documentary was released on February 5th of this year, so it's brand new. It, as Marnell said, is on Hulu. It was originally released on FX, and it's like FX on Hulu, so you can watch it on Hulu.
Right.
It's season 1 of the New York Times Presents series, and the Britney Spears one is episode 6.
Right. So it kind of sounded like the producers and the director wanted to make this more of what they did with the New York Times did with O.J. Simpson, where it was like a 4 or 6 part by itself. Because
what? New York Times did something with O.J.?
Well, about the O.J. trial.
Oh my God. I totally didn't know that.
So they wanted this to be like not just an hour and 14-minute episode of the season of the New York Times Presents. They wanted it to be its own standalone thing. But I think the New York Times greatly underestimated what a hot button this was going to be for America. And it just blew up on Twitter. So it kind of sounds like they are kind of planning a more of a in-depth look at the case. But of course, it's still going on. So
right.
I could imagine that they are probably still filming interviews and keeping track of the court case and things like that, and doing all the research on archives. I can imagine they're doing that and putting that all together, and we could see it in a couple of years. Hopefully by then Britney will have been freed,
right?
But who knows?
I want to say that as of 5 days ago, when I looked at the news, they were back in court about the conservatorship.
Yep.
So okay, I think it's my turn to go first with things tonight because I made you go first last night.
That sounds about right.
So I gave it a 4.63 unconscionable contracts out of 5.
Wow.
It was did not even remotely believe I would rate it that high, but it was really good.
You rated it slightly higher than I did.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, I rated it 4.5 impudent paparazzi.
All right. We're going to talk about that dude. I didn't really take lots of notes about him, but we're going to talk about that dude.
Oh, I have notes.
Okay. Because I was not impressed.
For being one of probably 200 paparazzi that followed her at any one time during all of this, I commend him for speaking on camera about it, but he was impudent.
Yeah, and I kind of felt like maybe he had some regret, and then
I think once
didn't
it was
really
pointed out to him, he was like, well, yeah, I guess I kind of see how that could be bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I have tons of numbers. So, first I'm going to talk a little bit about Britney, because these are some different numbers that we don't usually talk about.
Mm-hmm.
She is 39 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She has been in show business for 3 decades, and she has an estimated worth of $59 million.
And that seems low.
Yet, you know, we think that she can't take care of herself.
Right?
You know?
I was reading in one of the articles that according to like her tax filing or something, her biggest expense last year was paying for her conservatorship. Mind you, this is a woman who has multiple houses and, you know, I don't know, like, watching her Instagram, like, I don't think the girl wears the same outfit twice. And I mean, she really doesn't have anything else to do when she doesn't have her boys. And so she just, like, plays around on Instagram and plays dress up all the time, you know? So maybe her clothing bill, like her conservatorship, her mortgage, and probably her clothing bill are, like, you know, the top 3. But her conservatorship is the most expensive thing.
And I'm going to say something about that. It's in my bycatch, but I'm just going to say it now. The point that they made in the documentary when they said that she not only pays for her own attorney, she pays her conservators, and she pays for her conservators' attorneys.
Yep.
Oh, that made me furious.
Yep.
Furious.
Like, how is that a thing?
And how is it a thing that a 39-year-old woman who is working full-time, parenting half-time, how is it a thing that she's not able to take care of that she's deemed not able to take care of herself?
Because that one judge apparently has some sort of secret medical report that says she can't make her own decisions. She's not capable.
Yeah, but that probably was from when she shaved her head, back in 2007, 2008?
Right. Like, right on the heels of having back-to-back children. So, hello, postpartum depression and the pressures of being a megastar and having 100 people follow you around everywhere. And there's pictures of you doing any little thing. You can't walk through a convenience store without, you know, being mobbed. Like, I get it. And she needed the conservatorship at the time, I believed. I think we talked about Amy Winehouse, and I think she would have done well with a temporary conservatorship. But this permanent thing, no. She's back on her feet. She's on her A game. Like, the girl can take care of herself. Like, leave her alone.
Yeah. Ugh. All right. So my other numbers are purely about ratings for the documentary. So it has a 74 out of 100 on Metacritic. So those are considered to be generally favorable reviews. It's a 7 out of 10 on IMDb, so fairly consistent. The first run on FX was viewed by 265,000 people on the same day. It had 200,000 same-day views in the UK, 484,000 same-day views in Australia, and it was the 10th most watched documentary or television program of the day in Australia the day that it premiered.
Whew.
Yeah, so...
Well, it must have just released in Argentina because as of 20 hours ago, #Free Britney was trending in Argentina.
Interesting.
So this is worldwide.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, I mean, her stardom is worldwide.
Yeah.
Even though she wasn't my era and wasn't particularly my thing, her stardom is worldwide.
Totally my jam. She is
Really?
only 2 years younger than me. I've been there since day one.
That's so funny. Okay, so the title. So the things that I thought of when I thought about the title, Framing Britney Spears. So framing is both setting that person up, which I think is kind of what they were trying for. But it also is creating a narrative about a person. Like when you frame someone, you're creating that frame in which they exist, that narrative in which they exist.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I kind of thought that it was both.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah, and I've kind of often wondered about the title, because I watched this actually a few months ago, I think, when it
when it came out on FX.
Yeah. And so I was just like, it's a really weird title, and the only thing I can think of is when they were able to get her to sign over her rights and go under a permanent conservatorship. I really think that they held the visitation of her sons over her head, and so it was like kind of framing her, to be crazy in order to...
And that was what I was thinking about when I was thinking about framing, as in, like, incriminating somebody.
Right. But I like they're framing the narrative around her. Yeah. Because one of the things that was mentioned in the documentary is when her brand started to take back off again after the shaving the head and umbrella incident, was that her brand became very tightly controlled. She didn't do a lot of one-on-one interviews. She did a ton of endorsements and commercials and things like that, but there wasn't a lot of, what we had seen in the past with, interviews with Diane Sawyer and Matt Lauer, and, she just talked to the paparazzi on the red carpet. Yeah, I know, Matt Lauer.
Yeah, we'll go there too. Man. Yeah, that didn't age well.
No,
yeah.
Not at all. So yeah, I agree with the title, Framing Britney Spears.
Okay, so the writer and director were both women, and I didn't think about it until we were just talking now, but I think it definitely has to do with the whole framing of Britney Spears, as in looking at her as a whole person, that the writer and director were both women. So Liz Day was actually the writer, and we saw her in the documentary. She was the blonde woman. This is such a ridiculous description, and hang in there with me. Blonde woman, amazing eyes with great, like, either fake lashes, lash extensions, or mascara, no eye makeup, and, like, blue eyes. Long blonde hair, long blonde straight hair.
Oh, see, I kind of thought that she was wearing eye makeup, but it was almost like it was cosmetic tattoos. Oh. Like she had her waterlines tattooed.
Yeah. No, but she looked like she was just wearing, like, liner and lashes and not anything else. Yeah, that's who I'm talking about. So there you go, Housewives listeners. We identify women by their eye makeup. We're not objectifying anyone.
Well, her eyes really do stick out.
They really do. So that's... go ahead.
So her writing credits, actually, because it's a documentary, her title is actually, it's under writing credits, but it's actually senior story editor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. She has 2 writing credits total, and she has also written for The Weekly, which is also a New York Times documentary series. And there was a thing that she and the director both had in common for The Weekly. They both worked on a thing called The Education of T.M. Landry. Probably not something that I will watch. There's something in the director's credits that we'll talk about in a minute that probably is something that might make it on the list, but it'll probably never get watched because it's way down on the list. The other thing that was super interesting about Liz Day is that she has worked as a senior news researcher for Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Oh. Which
is really funny. I like that show. And he's dead on.
He is.
And then she also was a reporter on one episode of Frontline, which is on PBS. And I am not always caught up with Frontline, but I almost always enjoy Frontline when I watch it.
It's been a while since I've caught one.
Yeah, I'm hit or miss. It's in my podcast feed.
I'm more of like a Dateline 2020.
Oh my God, of course you are. Okay, and then our director is a woman named Samantha Stark, who has 2 director credits, this and 2 episodes of The Weekly. Education of T.M. Landry, which I mentioned, and then one called Hard Left. And it's about Democratic activists in 2019 who are pushing the Democratic Party to the left. And the picture for the documentary shows AOC. So I thought, that's probably interesting. Probably not ever going to get far enough up my list for me to watch it, but it's interesting.
Right.
Samantha Stark was also the producer and director of a 2011 documentary called Coming Out. I couldn't find anything more about it on IMDb. I'm assuming it's about coming out as gay or lesbian, but I don't know that for a fact because I couldn't find anything. But that's my stuff about the writer and the senior story editor and the director. And then we go right into Housewives Heroes because there are 2 tonight.
Yes. You know, we've had a couple of shows where it's like, yeah, there's no heroes here.
Right. And I was struggling, so I was glad that you had a suggestion.
Right. So our Housewives hero are the hosts of Britney's Grams, which is the happiest place on the internet. They are the ones that started a podcast that just totally dissect Britney Spears' Instagram. And it kind of all started with them kind of, you know, hearing about the conservatorship and being interested in that. And it's like, well, she doesn't ever really talk about it. So, like, there's some kind of weird things that kind of pop up in her Instagram feed, which is at one point, and still kind of is to this day, the only way that Britney Spears can speak to the public unedited. Her Instagram is her own. And so they started thinking, are there hidden messages in Britney Spears' Instagram? And so they developed a podcast, and I've heard of weirder ideas for podcasts. They developed a podcast to just dissect Britney Spears' Instagram posts to see if she was sending coded messages about her conservatorship. And the evidence is pretty overwhelming that she kind of is. You know, I've seen worse documentation.
So, I have so much to say about these 2 women and so much to say about that. And, you know, some of it is part of my summer, winter, and road construction. So I'm going to try not to, like, roll everything out.
I was going to say get into it because you were the one that I suggested them. And I was like, I didn't do a whole lot of research on them because...
So I'm
not kidding. I have like 10 pages of notes.
I read an article and then I looked each of them up on their websites.
Mm-hmm. They both do have websites.
Yes. So I should have written down the source of the article and I didn't, and I apologize. But so they launched their podcast in 2017 and they called it A Lark. And the podcast, it sounds like it was pretty well listened to, but it really took off when they did their emergency episode after that voicemail.
Yep.
From the person who said he was a paralegal for an attorney who worked on the conservatorship. They have some really interesting thoughts about kind of their role in the media and things that have evolved since. And I'm going to save that for my summer, winter, and bycatch. Okay. But they had some interesting quotes in the article that I read. So they said, the comedy of the podcast, we thought, would derive from us taking something so... Oh, my handwriting is terrible. Mundane. Something so mundane, such as...
I was thinking superfluous, but yes.
No, mundane. And they were talking about Britney's Instagram incredibly seriously. So they started it out as something comedic.
Well,
and,
I mean, look at My Favorite Murder.
Right?
They have an entire media empire now because they started podcasting to kind of laugh about murder.
Right. Yeah, totally. And so, and these women kind of had a similar trajectory. And they said that they did it because they thought it would be ridiculous, quote, ridiculous to do a deep dive on someone's Instagram feed. But then they said they would never have taken that tone if they actually thought and realized that human rights violations were happening.
You know, we podcast about a lot of serious issues on this podcast.
And our tone is sometimes dismissive, and it's not meant to be.
No, but you kind of have to keep it light. We were talking about the West Memphis 3, and you had said something, and you were like, I shouldn't laugh at that. And I'm like, no, like, it's not funny, haha. It's funny, hinky. It's like, this is insane. Like, this should not be happening. If somebody had written the West Memphis 3 or this conservatorship for Britney Spears as a movie script, it would have gotten laughed out of Hollywood because it's just so ridiculous, but it's happening in real life, you know? So
yeah.
It's kind of, you kind of have to make light of things sometimes, you know, because things are just so serious. But you know, had they not done it, I don't know that the Free Britney movement would be where it is now.
I don't think the Free Britney Sorry. This is the first little sip of vodka that I've had, believe it or not. I'm just really tired. Because I'm burning the candle at both ends.
Or you're just like me, and instead of having a blood alcohol level, you have an alcohol blood level.
Okay, shoot, what was I going to say?
You were talking about Babs and Tess and how their Instagram section started out as funny.
I guess I don't have anything else to say about that. I do have individual things about them. So Barbara Gray, her podcast, her website is called My Joke's Up Here. Which I thought was really funny because my thing, so I am wearing shorter sleeves more frequently in clinic than I have in the past, but I tend to wear long sleeves more often than not because my arms are so heavily tattooed that I kid you not, when I go into a patient's room, they're not looking at my boobs, they're looking at my arms. And so my joke is always, my eyes are up here. Those are tattoos, my eyes are up here. So when I read that her website was My Joke's Up Here, that cracked me up. The very first line on her website is big hair, big heart, big mouth. And I thought, well, my hair's not really big on any given day, but I have a big heart and a big mouth.
Yeah, I wish I had big hair.
I have big hair if I really put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, not me.
Go ahead.
It just falls flat, like my jokes.
So, oh my gosh, you're going to appreciate this. So, this is totally a housewives thing, and people know, kind of, sort of, I made the joke to the new friend that I'm spending time with this weekend. I said, you know, so I have this internal 14-year-old goth, and she's always been really pissed off, but now this 14-year-old goth is hanging out with a 15-year-old dude with a boner, and she is really not pissed off anymore. Okay, big heart, big mouth, big hair. So Barbara Gray, she's a comedian. She is considered, quote, a staple of LA's alternative comedy scene, whatever the heck an alternative comedy scene is. She has been on another podcast with Tess Barker, our other hero. They do a podcast called Lady to Lady with a woman named Brandy Posey. Barbara has also starred in Corporate on Comedy Central, and she's been in specials on MTV, Hulu, Netflix, and True TV. All right, Tess Barker. She is at tessbarker.com. She is an LA-based writer and comedian, and she has written anything from crunchy investigative stuff to celebrity silliness, like celebrity fluff pieces. And she has written for Vice, The Guardian, Vox, MTV News, Jezebel, LA Weekly. So they've both done a ton of stuff, and I think in that way they're similar to the gals from My Favorite Murder in that they had careers and they were established in the entertainment industry long before they started doing a podcast.
Right.
They're not a couple of yokels from Alaska who are like, let's do a podcast.
So have you ever seen Billy on the Streets?
No.
Billy on the Street.
No.
Okay. I will have to introduce you to Billy on the Street. So
please do not put anything more on my plate this week because I have to watch the Snyder Cut of Justice League. God forgive us. And
the 4-hour
I know. Cut. And I still have only finished the first season of Rick and Morty, so I have to continue down that road.
So Tess is written for Billy on the Street, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a comedian who just kind of runs around with a microphone and like kind of accosts strangers with questions. And he usually has a famous person in tow with them, and I will send you the Hamilton one.
Oh my God, the Hamilton one!
See, I knew I would get you with that one.
Did you see the Hamilton thing that I shared that was a bunch of docs from California who redid Hamilton's piece, My Shot?
I did not.
So there's this awesome Hamilton song where the lyric is I'm not throwing away my shot, right. And it's about Hamilton wanting to be like a soldier.
Uh-huh.
And they redid it to talk about getting vaccinated.
Yeah, so...
And it was awesome. So I need to put on my list of things to share on Real Housewives the Hamilton thing and the Lola Blanc.
Yep. You would be angry too. Yeah, it's kind of not throwing away my shot. It's kind of been co-opted by the vaccination movement. So I thought that was kind of funny. I even tagged you in one of Ann Zink's posts by saying that. Oh, when they opened up Alaska vaccinations to everyone 16 and older. Because that makes me eligible.
Oh.
Because I'm over 16. What?
Oh, no, Okay, Hamilton. You had me at Hamilton. Okay.
I just wanted to mention that Tess she's been a writer for Billy on the Street, and it's such a funny show. I don't always catch it. A lot of times it'll trend on Twitter, and I'll catch clips of it, so, yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say about Our Ladies, although that was quite a bit, is that they announced that they have a new project and they are doing a, quote, serialized investigative documentary podcast with Stitcher's witness documentaries. Yeah, so...
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna let Britney's Graham go for a while. They kind of made it sound like they were gonna let it go.
Yeah, I think once it blew up with this New York Times piece, I think a lot of people have kind of taken over the mantle for them. You can see a ton of Free Britney stuff on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. So I don't think they kind of feel the need to continue it so much, but I think you will still get episodes anytime something happens with the case. So yeah. At Britney's Graham on Instagram and of course Twitter.
And I suspect they each have their own Twitter accounts as well. I didn't look them up.
I did not either. I'm sure that they do.
So Tess Barker and Barbara Gray, Gray.
And, I see her a lot of times listed as Babs.
I think that she lists herself that way on her website.
Okay.
Okay, so I have tons of news. So let me launch into it in just a second here.
Okay.
And I actually had to stop reading the news because I kind of felt like it was getting a little bit salacious.
The news about Britney?
Yeah, just because I don't know. I felt like it was somewhat repetitive, and the first couple of things were kind of newsy, and then the deeper I got into it, it was like, and more this gossipy thing, and that gossipy thing, and yeah, it was kind of
I know. After watching this, I have such tremendous guilt about participating in tabloid culture around the time of this happening. Mm-hmm. Just to look back and see the things that were said about her or written about her or things that people, asked her. I don't think I ever bought Us Weekly, but whenever it was like available in my doctor's office, kind of before we got so dependent on our cell phones, I would always read it. I would always read the tabloids at the check stand, so yeah, it just, there's a huge ick factor.
I'm a little, I every now and I don't buy it, but every now and then I'll look at a People magazine, like if I'm in a place where it is, but I don't even really do that anymore. I mean, the news that I get is either stuff that I'm intentionally seeking out when I'm when I'm researching for podcasts, or, I'll get like horrible stuff like this shooting happened, or these are the COVID numbers, or, that kind of stuff.
Right. And, I have a tendency to look more on my
on your Facebook,
on my Twitter, on my trending page, rather than like the people that I subscribe to on Twitter, and so I'll always see like the top trending things of the day or the hour or whatever it is, and I have stopped actually clicking on stuff that I'm just like, yeah, no, we don't need to hype that person. I don't want to give that one more click. Mm-hmm. So I really don't care less, Mm-hmm. So I have tried to be more cognitive of what I engage with online, because that's how that's the metric nowadays is, how
many clicks does it get?
How many clicks? Yep.
Yeah.
And as we learned from The Social Dilemma, they even gauge how long you look at a picture online. So.
Okay, I didn't need to hear that again. All right. So Housewives Weekly, I have a lot. The first one is 2 days after this documentary first aired, the hashtag We Are Sorry Britney started trending. Mm-hmm. And people like Justin Timberlake, Diane Sawyer, Sarah Silverman, Joel McHale, John O'Hurley, excuse me. They, my handwriting is awful. It used to be good. It's awful now, especially when I'm taking notes rapidly. All of those people kind of jumped on the hashtag We Are Sorry Britney and made apologies to her. And then Justin Timberlake actually made a public apology to her on his Instagram 7 days after this premiered.
Yeah, and I don't put a lot of stock into his apology. I'm sure that he
did it on Instagram, so,
I'm sure that he is sorry. He looks back at the same thing. It's like, oh, that didn't age well, But I don't know that he would have done things any different. I don't feel like he would have done things any differently, And a lot of people pointed out that he made his career off the backs of two women in the industry, and that Britney Spears and Janet Jackson with the Super Bowl incident.
Oh, right. I totally forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
And the women got thrown under the bus, and he only gained more fame from it.
Oh, let's not even.
Because we needed one more thing to be angry about on this documentary.
Well, that's just one more piece of the whole misogyny that I didn't even think about.
Mm-hmm. So, about a couple of days after this started trending on Twitter, somebody unearthed a, you know how they showed clips of Jay Leno and David Letterman talking about Britney Spears, and she was the butt of the joke when she, had her breakdown and everything. Craig Ferguson, somebody unearthed a monologue that he did where he was like, so Britney Spears is in the news again today. And so like everyone thought it was a setup for a joke. So they're all, the audience laughed.
Oh, please tell me he was a good guy.
Oh, he was like, I don't find anything about this funny. This young woman is having a breakdown and she needs some serious help.
All right. I love him even harder now.
Oh, now I'm going to have to post it.
Yeah.
I'll have to find it and post it because like I was like, oh my God, Craig Ferguson, like somebody needs to sign him onto a Marvel movie or something like right now because the guy is a hero, for what he said back then when it was not the popular opinion, refusing to joke about the, mental health struggles of a young woman when everybody was doing it and everyone expected it. The entire audience kind of laughed like he was setting up for a joke, and then he's like, no, it's not funny. And I was just like, I love you, Craig Ferguson.
Oh my God, I so totally thought you were going to say something awful, and I'm so happy that you said something good about him.
Yep.
Ugh, that's great. Yes, you have to post it. I have 2 things I have to post. You have 1 thing you have to post.
So far. And I'm actually writing notes so that I start posting.
I was going to say I'm keeping a list, so... Okay, the second one was something that is like new in the news as of like today, maybe the last couple of days. I think today was the tag on most of the ones that I saw, and there were tons of articles like rehashing the same thing. So Britney Spears' mother, Lynn, sent her a post of her singing a song called You Got It All. And she was urging her to sing again. She wants her to start singing again. And Britney shared it on her Instagram and said, gee, my mom sent me this and reminded me that I can sing. Does her mom have ulterior motives to get her to sing again? Her parents are still married, aren't they?
I don't think so. I thought
really?
They were at the very least separated.
Oh, I didn't know. I assumed they were still together. So
I think they have a lot of interaction because of Britney's career. But yeah, I thought that it was early in Britney's career that I thought her parents divorced.
Okay.
But
I mean, they did say repeatedly in the documentary that her dad was like not present for most of her life, that he was really pretty much an absent dad.
Right. And so, like I said, I've been a fan since day one. And like I vividly actually remember her Hit Me Baby One More Time premiering on TRL Live. And I was actually watching at the time.
Wow, that's crazy. You're such a
right?
baby. Oh my God.
So I always remember her mother being with her. I mean, if you look at all of the interviews that she did, half of them, her mother is sitting right next to her, and there was a lot of times they talked about it in the documentary early in Britney's career where her mother couldn't be with her, which is why that like assistant friend was always with her. Because Britney has 2 other siblings. And
okay,
so,
I did not know she had a brother until this documentary, and he's a creep.
He's
a horrible, horrible person.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We will talk about that.
Sorry, go ahead.
So when I learned, and I've always kind of known about it's always kind of been underlying this conservatorship. It's always kind of been there where like it'll come up in the headlines every once in a while about it. And it's like, God, she's still under a conservatorship. Like, what's going on with that? Like, how is that possible? But it was never the explosion that it is now. But
I think most of us don't know what a conservatorship is. I mean, I work in healthcare. I deal with people who are disabled in physical and mental ways all the time, and I didn't know the specifics of a conservatorship. You probably did because you worked in DFYS.
Right. But it's a little bit different there. I still, because it's not really a conservatorship so much, when it's the state taking a child. But, it's the kind of general idea is, somebody who is incapable of, making their own decisions. And there's a couple of different types of conservatorships. And Britney is under both of them. She is under a personal conservatorship and a financial conservatorship.
So her body and her money.
Right. And I don't see how they can continue the personal conservatorship.
I don't see how they can continue the financial conservatorship when she's essentially worth $60 million.
I honestly think that the parties involved, including some in our judicial system, I will say that, as to not be libelous, but it's not like she's a drug addict or like losing her teeth because she's not brushing them and bathing, and like she can obviously take care of herself personally. She should be able to go and see a doctor when she wants to, when she feels she needs to, and she can't do that under a personal conservatorship. It's just gross, like what is this, the 1800s?
That's disgusting.
Yeah. And so I remember all of the stuff that kind of came around when Sam Lufty came into the picture, and there was like her behavior was kind of, I could see how, and we see this all the time with child stars where, they go a bit off when they become adults because they had a screwed up childhood. Whether it was good or whether it had a good experience or a bad experience, they didn't have a regular childhood experience. And I think that does something to people. And so it's like they get frozen at an age mentally, or they try and, be a kid again or be a teenager when they're adults and they have adult responsibilities and adult bank accounts, and a lot of them like wind up squandering their fortunes or making bad investments or getting duped or things like that. And I really think she was kind of going down that path in the beginning. And so like I said, I think that the conservatorship was necessary on a temporary basis, but we are going on 13 years, and I think it's obvious to everybody that she'll be fine without them. At the very, very least, grant her a third party conservatorship. Somebody who has no interest in it.
For the love of God, just let the woman live her life.
Right?
Okay, we have to get through the news. Okay, so there are conflicting reports. E! News reports that Britney is considered doing a tell-all interview with Oprah on the heels of the interview that Oprah did with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Ooh.
But then Us Weekly turned around and said, no, that's not a thing. She actually does want to tell her story, but she doesn't want to tell it in that kind of format, and she has talked about writing a memoir. So
okay, so I could see her writing a memoir and then going on Oprah.
Right? Because she needs to add to that $60 million fortune.
Right?
You probably already know this. I did not. She is dating a personal trainer named Sam Asghari. I am probably slaughtering his name. He moved here from Tehran, Iran at the age of 12.
I think I've seen some stuff about that, but when it comes to that kind of thing, it's actually kept pretty close to the chest.
So
nowadays.
Apparently they're fairly public on Instagram.
Yeah.
They've been dating since 2016, and he actually, I don't know if it was his Instagram or it was an interview, but he actually like let slip recently that they were considering having a baby. And I was like,
oh my goodness.
She's 39. That's probably not a great medical choice.
Yeah.
But
so I mean, it's not like they're not seen out a lot. It's not like when it was her and Justin or her and Kevin Federline or even her and
Lefty.
Yeah. Sam Lefty. And that was a weird relationship. Like sometimes I felt like they were dating and sometimes I felt like he was just trying to be her manager. Like it was weird.
It sounds like it was pretty much I'm going to date you, but really I just want to control you.
Right.
And your money.
And so it's not like it was back then when, you know, you'd see him going out, you know, to dinner or to a movie or, you know, on vacation together or anything like that. Like there are very few opportunities for the paparazzi to get shots of her nowadays, which I think is a good thing.
All right. Vivian Thoren, who was the woman of Asian descent who is an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
She works for the father, the conservators.
Jamie Spears, yep.
She totally denies, and this is current news, that Britney asked her father to step back from his conservatorship. It's in the court paperwork.
Right?
I don't know how she could deny it in the media, but she did.
Yeah. Well, she's sus anyway, because...
She's sus? Is that what you said?
Yes.
I love it. We're X-rated. She's sus.
Like, her motives are so suspect because... So, she spoke to the documentary... at the time, when she spoke to them at the time, she had worked for Jamie Spears's side, the attorney for Jamie Spears.
Right. And she was like not with Jamie Spears and then went back to work for him shortly after the documentary was completed.
Right. And I had this feeling that...
Do you think she was a plant?
So no, I forget who made it kind of popular. But it was basically like... If somebody has a dissenting opinion of you, basically hire them, because then they have to say what you tell them. And so hire your critics, and they're no longer your critics.
I like it.
Yeah, so I feel like she spoke to the documentary, and they went, "Oh, we can't have her talking to anybody," so they put her back on the payroll to shut her up. You know. And she took it. I mean, when you hire your critics have to, you know, say yes. So that's why she's suspect.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like it.
Take everything that she says with a grain of salt, a very large grain of salt.
Okay. Some horrible woman... I don't know who the heck she is. You probably know who dance moms are. Yeah, you do. You're laughing. You do. Some
Terrible
awful
life choices.
Huh?
Terrible life choices.
Terrible life choices. All right.
TLC. Yep.
So some awful woman named Abby Lee Miller from Dance Moms harshed on Britney Spears for an Instagram post where she was dancing, and so apparently she does a lot about spinning.
Yep.
And she was like dancing and having a great time and dressed in kind of skimpy shorts like she often is. And I mean, I didn't watch the video, but I saw a still and I was like, dang, she looks cute and she's got a banging bod.
Yep.
You know, and she actually got on Instagram and responded to Britney Spears and said, "Close your ribcage." And I just want to say, whoever you are, Abby Lee Miller, close your mouth. Because I've seen pictures of you and you're a skank. So there.
Wow. How do you... That's got to be a dance thing. How do you close your ribcage?
Right. Close your ribcage.
Weird.
How about open your mind?
How about shut your mouth?
We do not like Abby Lee Miller.
No, she's right up there with Kendall Eric, which I will talk about.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure I remember who that is.
She is the wife of the governor of
Oh,
Maryland.
yeah. Oh, that horrible human. Horrible human.
Okay.
All right. Jamie Lynn Spears, her sister, said in response to the documentary, "Dear media, try not to repeat the mistakes of your past. Look where that got us. Do better."
I think they are. I think they are doing better.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, and that was when I was like, no, stop. Stop reading stuff about Britney Spears. No, stop. It's just going to go on and on and on and get more and more salacious. Gross. And yuck. So I have a couple of small pieces of news about the Satanic Temple, and then we can get into our summer, winter, and road construction. Unless you have something for housewives.
Nope.
Housekeeping. I think the only thing that I want to say before I go into the Satanic Temple news is that we are podcasting the Snyder Cut of Justice League with Capes and Lunatics this coming weekend, and boy, has it created quite a kerfuffle.
Yeah.
Even our beloved Charlie Esser, who can spin gold from straw, thinks it's awful.
And it's so, I'm seeing such a divide. Like, I'm seeing people who were like, oh my God, it's the most amazing thing since sliced bread. And then there's people who were like, I can't believe I wasted 4 hours of my life. I
told you, my friend is like, it was all right. We'll talk about it more after you podcast.
And my friend was like, oh my God, I'm an hour in and this is amazing. I love it.
Really?
So, yeah.
I would have to say that's 4 hours of my life I'll never get back crew seems to be quite a bit bigger than the oh my God, it's amazing crew.
Yeah. And I think the bigger like superhero / comic book geek you are, I think the more problem you have with it.
Huh. Okay, interesting. God, I don't know where I'm going to find 4 hours to watch this movie.
Well,
I'll probably have to watch like 2 on Wednesday and 2 on Thursday.
So it's on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And I think they're offering it in chapters. And I think that's exactly how
so that's
Jamie
I was going to say that's the reference that our crew has made to watching it in chapters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's how they did it. They broke it up into either 1 hour chunks or 2 hour, 2 hour chunks. So yeah, we are podcasting that, and then we are also going to be podcasting The People versus
Larry Flint.
Why do I keep doing
Harry
that?
Flint.
And that is not, like, ever since the dang movie came out, I have said Harry. I don't know why.
That's so funny. Yeah, so that's going
to
be
something to do with it being Woody Harrelson. I don't know.
That's going to be sometime in April. I know that Phil has tried to pin us down for podcasting Invincible. I just don't know where I'm going to find all this time. Because, we're also doing 2 hours a week more than 2 hours a week between this and Biters. So, yeah. And I'm trying to resuscitate my social life. So here we are. Okay. Satanic Temple. So it looks like the Satanic Temple's fight to erect a Baphomet statue in Arkansas is alive and well, as of a Bloomberg article that was posted earlier today.
Ooh.
Yeah, I didn't realize that whole thing was still alive and well. And they mentioned the Scottsdale, Arizona thing, and they mentioned something else, I think maybe the billboard thing. So it was kind of both of the articles that I found were presented as news, but they were definitely kind of anti-TST. One was on Bloomberg, and the other one that I'm citing here was on MSNBC or MSN. And that was news from last Thursday. The Satanic Temple case against Scottsdale, Arizona has reached the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And TST is basically saying that they have a case against Scottsdale because Scottsdale keeping them from speaking is a violation of the Establishment Clause. Congress shall establish no religion, and their right to equal protection as a religious minority under law. So, that's my news about TST. I feel like I always have to talk about TST since they were our inaugural podcast, and they're kind of our jam.
And they're so politically active.
I drink out of my TST mug almost every morning, so...
So I will tell you that I am halfway through Damien Eccles' audiobook.
Life After Death?
Yes.
Yay!
Yeah, I'm loving it.
Good.
I love it. Yeah, he's amazing. There are some times where like he's speaking and I'm like, I feel like I need to like write that down.
Very good. And he reads it, you said?
Yes.
Nice. This is kind of housekeeping for the end of the podcast, but I want us to think about what we want to do next. I know that you had talked about doing something about Asian comfort women, which I think we should do, but it's my turn to pick next. And I either want to do American History X or I want to do the documentary about Kurt Cobain that I sent to you.
Oh, I'm down for either of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we should do either one of them at some point, but we'll talk about which one we're going to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Summer, winter, and road construction.
You are up first.
I am up first, and I'm going to be honest with you and tell you that I am going to... This is both my summer and my winter, so I'm going to do my summer and my winter together.
Okay.
Hashtag Free Britney. And
that is my summer also, so I'm right there with you.
This goes to what the podcasters were saying when they were being interviewed in that article that I read, and I was like, I'm going to kind of hold it and roll it out. You know, it was good in that it heightened our awareness of, or heightened the public's awareness of what was going on with Britney Spears and the conservatorship, and that it taught people what conservatorships are. It's bad in that the podcasters were really like, you know, we look back now and we feel like we contributed to toxic celebrity culture. And we feel like we either fed or created a media frenzy that just made things worse. So they kind of feel like that maybe they would not have done what they had done if they had really thought it through, if they'd really known the horrible things that were going on in Britney Spears' life.
See, and do you know when they said that?
It's pretty recent because they were talking about the documentary.
Because Britney Spears even said in one of her last legal briefings that
she appreciated her informed fans.
Yes, their informed support.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm so glad that somebody brought this to light, because like I said, it was always there just under the surface. I would see headlines every now and then about, you know, going back to court to, you know, change the conservatorship terms or whatever. And so I just, you know, I feel like if this weren't her family, if somebody else were doing this to her, people would be more outraged. They would have been outraged even sooner.
Yes, that's a valid point.
The amount of money she is paying for her own conservatorship, the conservator is getting a salary, her dad, of like, I think it was like $103,000 or $130,000 a year just to be her conservator. And then he cut a deal where he was getting 1.5% of her profits during her Vegas run. Oh,
and the whole thing where they were like, the conservatee has become more active or more, I mean, it was, I think active, they used the word active or something weird like that. It was basically she's becoming more financially solvent, therefore.
Right. And they asked for a hybrid business model of the conservatorship. And the attorney that she tried to hire was like, that's not a thing.
Right?
You know? Like,
yeah, it's not a business deal. Conservatorships are not supposed to be profitable.
Right. And so I honestly think that, you know, if this were not her family, if her, you know, somebody would be like, oh my God, these people are swindling this young woman out of millions of dollars a year and something should be done about it.
That's a super valid point.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that the public learned about what is going on and is so outraged that, I mean, there just 5 days ago when they were back in court for the conservatorship, there was a Free Britney rally outside the court. People are still attending the Free Britney rallies.
Good.
So, yeah. So, yes, the hashtag Free Britney was also my summer.
So I already said what my winter was, so go ahead and say what your winter is.
So that was both your summer and your winter?
Yeah, because my summer it's good in that it made people more aware. It's bad in that it contributed to toxic celebrity culture.
Yeah, and I can kind of see that, but I think it did more good than it did bad for Britney. So, and so you probably have not seen it because you don't watch nearly as much television as I do, but there is a movie on Netflix right now with Peter Dinklage, and I can't remember the woman's name. She was in Gone Girl with Ben Affleck, which was a really amazing movie. But it's called I Care or something. And it is about a woman who preys on the elderly with conservatorships. She goes in and she's basically got a deal with a doctor, and the doctor will give her tips on like, oh, this elderly person has a lot of money and they don't seem to be doing as well as they used to. And she'll go and she'll file an emergency conservatorship because an emergency conservatorship, the person that is going to be the conservatee does not have to be notified if it's an emergency case. And, you know, she winds up being a conservator for dozens of rich elderly people. And what she does is she goes in and she sticks them in a home, which of course she has a deal with them too, where, you know, they get a cut, and she liquidates all of their assets, charges them fees up the wazoo until they are either dead or broke. And not to give anything away, it's very evident when you watch the trailer for it, but Peter Dinklage, she winds up doing this to Peter Dinklage's mom, and he is actually like a major crime lord or mafioso or whatever, and you know, so she messed with his mom and now he's gonna mess with her in a non-legal way, you know. And so it's just these two horrible people up against each other, but you know, it talks about how easy it is to do this to people. It's gross. So conservatorship's bad. So that was not my winter.
That wasn't my winter, but I'm going to go on and on anyway.
Right? My winter is looking back at all of the interviews. I mean, even when she was on Star Search.
Okay, that's my road construction, so I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah, so it started off with them asking her, do you have a boyfriend?
With Ed McMahon asking her if she had a boyfriend and then being like, can I be your boyfriend? Oh!
Yeah. And I love how the next person that was interviewed pointed out, because there's no other thing that could be interesting about a young woman but who she's dating. And then some rando former classmate named Michael Ward.
Oh, he was such a creep. She needs to put on some jeans and be barefoot and sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he said, I know she's aiming for the kids market or whatever, but she needs to back off and put a pair of blue jeans on, no shoes, and just sing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, who are you?
Yeah. And why are you important?
Right?
Yeah.
Why is your opinion important?
Yeah.
Random man.
Random man.
And then that horrible interviewer, where he's like, everyone's talking about it, and she's like, what? And he's like,
I'm pretty sure it was
your breasts.
Wasn't it Piers Morgan?
No.
Oh, no. Piers Morgan did do an interview with her, but it wasn't that one.
Yeah. And she's like, what? My breasts? And
she was like, just a kid.
Yeah, she was like 17, 18. He's like, your breasts, you seem to get furious when talk show hosts come up with this subject. And I was just like, I would be furious if talk show hosts started talking to me about my breasts. Like, what? Yeah, it was gross. And then I think it was Mrs. Partridge when she was like co-hosting on The View or whatever. And she's like, she doesn't seem that innocent. And
yes, it was Shirley. Yeah,
it was Miss Partridge.
Yeah. Can't remember her name.
Yeah. And I think this is actually an audience member question, but that just goes to show like how much access we think we're entitled to these people's private lives. It sounded like it was an audience member. It could have been at a presser. But somebody asked if she was a virgin when she started dating Justin Timberlake. Did they ask him that too? No.
So horrible.
And then the wife of the governor of Maryland, Kendall Elric. Really, if I had the chance to shoot Britney Spears, I think I would.
Ugh. Nasty.
And Diane Sawyer telling her that in that interview, and she starts crying. And during the interview, she was also asking, what did you do to cause the breakup?
Right.
What did you do to cause the breakup?
Because obviously you like cheated or did something horrible.
Right. It's all your fault.
Mm-hmm.
I was just so grossed out. And then right there at the end, they had to interview her damn brother. And,
and that did you in.
This is what he said. The women in this family are very strong-minded and have their own opinion and do what they want to do. And that's as much as I admire that as a guy, being one of like two guys in this family, it kind of sucks, man. And the interviewer said, they're strong-minded. They have a kind of do what they want to do, and that sounds constitutional.
Right.
And yeah. And, when asked about the conservatorship, her brother's like, yeah, she's always wanted to get out of it.
Yeah, no, her brother was a casual misogynist.
Oh, my God.
He wasn't overtly disgusting, but he was a casual misogynist.
So, here's the thing. Like, one of only two guys in this family. Yeah, dad and son. And then there's mom and two daughters. Ooh, you're outranked by one, but we have to have an opinion about, they have their own, very strong-minded, and they have their own opinions. Oh my God. Shocker. Ugh, like I said, it wasn't just the men, the women, the things that the women said about Britney Spears, and it was just, I can't believe that I didn't see it then, because I have always kind of considered myself a pretty big feminist and pretty forward thinking about, well, did you ask the man the boyfriend the same question, or so I cannot believe all of that just totally flew under everyone's radar. And when you see it in full color right in front of you, clip after clip after clip, it's like, No wonder this woman started beating on that dude's car with an umbrella.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be angry too.
Yeah, no. Ugh.
Yeah. So that was my winter, is just the casual misogyny, the casual sexism, the entitlement we have to celebrity lives. It's just gross. Like, do better. We need to do better.
So that was pretty much my road construction. It was a bad road construction. The thing that I will add is that not just the misogyny, but the whole Madonna horror thing. You know, because I think it was Jay Leno who made the joke about, you know, you can have the slut or the good girl that you take home to your mom.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? We have more agency than that. We can be both, and we can enjoy being both, and that's okay.
And you know what? We can also be neither.
True that.
Yeah.
That's very true. And, you know, for me, right now, the place that I'm in my life, I can be both.
Yeah. And, you know, I thought it was interesting that they talked about that and showed Jay Leno's clip, and it was referring to Monica Lewinsky. And there's another woman who, like, just got totally thrown under the bus. And, I mean, the original victim of cyberbullying. Like, how that woman got through her early 20s without taking her own life, I will never understand. Like, I would have, at the very least, I would have fled the country and changed my name. Like, and now she's got a line of purses. Good for her. And she's super funny on Twitter. Oh my God.
She's great on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love her. So, yeah. So my road construction, we've talked about it already a little. JT, Justin Timberlake.
Okay.
I really liked how the one guy being interviewed said that everyone treated Britney like she was the school slut and treated him like he was the wronged quarterback.
Yes.
And then he wrote Cry Me a River and basically had a Britney lookalike for the video, and he totally played into being the wronged man. And what's worse than what we saw in the documentary, which was already pretty bad, there was a radio interview that he did where the guy's like, "Did you fuck Britney Spears?" And he's like, "Okay, I did it," you know, and they all start laughing, and it's like, okay, gross. You know, and then the whole Diane Sawyer thing where she's like, well, what did you do?
Yeah. What did you do to poor Justin to make him break up with you?
Right. And so in the trivia section of IMDb for the episode of the New York Times Presents Framing Britney Spears, it has this little tidbit. And if you didn't already have feelings about how Justin Timberlake rose to his fame on the backs of two very talented women. Ugh. For over a decade, Justin Timberlake was accused of sexism and misogyny regarding his treatment of a former girlfriend, Britney Spears. He also would explicitly call her crazy during concerts while playing his What Goes Around Comes Around song with a mashup of Gnarls Barkley's song Crazy and Amy Winehouse's Rehab, while calling her names and a Madonna wannabe on various occasions. After the release of the documentary, Justin Timberlake issued an apology on Instagram to both Spears and Janet Jackson for his handling of the infamous wardrobe malfunction at the Super Bowl in 2004. So, yeah. 2004 was a really big year for Justin Timberlake. That's when he stopped being part of a boy band and got just launched into the stratosphere on the backs of Britney Spears and Janet Jackson. And so he was my bad road construction. It's just, it's gross. And like, I get it. You're a young guy. You're young. You're dumb. a lot of people probably fed into it.
Just out of curiosity, does he even have a career now?
Yeah. He's been in a couple of movies. I think he has a fairly recent record that was released. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying cancel the guy.
He's just a creep.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, don't meet your heroes. Or Batman. You either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, I'm sure that if you cracked open anyone's life, some crap would fall out that would, make them look terrible. And like we watched in the one documentary, in and of itself, we are not all one thing. So I'm not saying cancel him. I'm just saying if anything can come from what he did is men do better when talking about, your exes. Actually, everyone do better, not just men. Everyone do better when you're talking about your exes, especially in public. So,
yeah. I haven't been very nice talking about my ex, but it's not talking about my ex. Yeah. I just haven't been very nice. But things are just not good. So.
Yeah. And,
But I also, to be fair, I have found some compassion.
Yeah. You're still kind of in the thick of it. I get it.
And I am able to say, I really wish that we hadn't hurt each other. I'm at least able to say that. I'm at least able to say, we were kids.
And you're not looking to make a buck
off
of your divorce. So, other than selling your house, which you're entitled to make a buck off of.
God, please, from your lips to God's ears.
If anyone's looking for a house in Alaska.
Right?
So I think that takes us straight into bycatch.
Oh my God. Okay.
There's a ton of it.
Holy cow. All right. You get a half an hour of bycatch. You're like, really? That's all? That's all I get?
So one of the things that I absolutely loved being included, and I have actually heard this somewhere before, was when her, kind of the assistant, what was her name? I wrote it down somewhere. Nancy? No, that was the child talent agent.
No.
Felicia.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia. Felicia Culata, the assistant / I would call her a chaperone. The first thing Britney Spears did after her, her getting her hit record was she went back home to Kentwood, Louisiana, and she took out $10,000 in $100 bills and handed them out for Christmas.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
And, just the Britney Spears that I grew up with, that is exactly who she was. She was just so nice and approachable and, so humble. She was never a diva or she was always so engaging with her fans and so, what's the word I want? Yeah, she was always like super nice to her fans. Which is why I kind of think that, she's lasted this long is, she was a strong, beautiful woman, who could legitimately sing, back in the 90s, we had this thing called auto-tune. And there are some singers out there who have pretty much made their living off of auto-tune, but Britney Spears was not one of them.
Oh my goodness.
So that kind of leads me into something else. The not being a diva. I loved that they included that clip of her rehearsing, and she's like, "No, turn it up." And the guy, off camera is like, "Quit being a diva." And she's like, "I am not a diva. I know what I want." I loved it. Loved it. Because women get accused, like, if we are assertive in situations, we get accused of being a diva or a prima donna or a bitch. And it's like, you wouldn't be saying that to a man. You'd be calling him a boss.
You know the Taylor Swift song, The Man. I don't
actually.
Okay,
No.
I'm going to have to post that to Real Housewives also. Because it's exactly that. I mean, you'd be considered complex, you'd be considered cool, you'd be the person who played the field. Mm-hmm. All of those things that we as women are vilified for.
So my former boss who hired me for the position that I'm in now, we had gone way back. Like I had known her, I'd known her for like 15 years. And when she retired, a lot of people described her as like tough or surly or things like that. And somebody described her as difficult. And I was like, difficult like how? And they're like, well, she's really assertive and opinionated. And I was like, so would you describe a male boss as difficult if he asserted his opinions? And they were like, well, and I'm like, that's a no.
Right?
Yeah. And so it's just, I've said it before on the podcast, and I will say it forever. Whenever you, and I do it myself, I always have to turn it around and say, would I say that about a woman, but you always just have to be careful of how you try and pigeonhole people based on gender. So, yeah, I just loved that, you're a diva, and she's like, I'm not a diva. I know what I want.
And she was a kid.
Yeah.
And she was able to articulate that.
Yeah. And, early on in her career, we saw that somebody did ask her how she was kind of able to maintain her stardom from the tender age of however old she was on Star Search to the Mickey Mouse Club to, all of her albums and, movies she had been in. And she's basically like, well, because I control everything, I make my own decisions, and, you have to control your own life. And, it's kind of ironic that she wound up in this situation. Ironic at that.
That is so sad.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like bogarting all the time. Do you have anything?
Let's see. I'm looking through.
So
go ahead. You go ahead and look while I'm looking through.
When she shaves her head, and I remember when that happened.
I remember when it happened too.
Yeah, and I remember the quote, and they quoted it in the documentary, and she's like, I don't want anyone touching me. I'm tired of people touching me. And I think that kind of happens a lot when you gain a lot of fame and you have to do a lot of like hair and makeup and things like that. Because I specifically remember, do you remember when Brad Pitt got really famous? He came out with Interview with a Vampire, and then right on the heels of that, it was Legends of the Fall.
I don't remember a particular incident where he had the I wish people would stop touching me thing.
So he went through this really grungy phase where he didn't like shave or cut his hair, and people complained that he wouldn't bathe for like, a week or longer. And so people were complaining about his smell and his greasy hair and all this kind of thing. And he actually, I don't know if it was during an interview or if this was like somebody quoting him, but it was because he was so tired of people touching him. He was constantly, hair and makeup, hair and makeup, hair and makeup. And people were always, washing his hair and doing his hair and putting makeup on. And, then he'd have to take the makeup off. And he was just like, I'm just sick of it. And he's like, he had this complete opposite reaction to, like, I just don't want any of that. Like, and so it's not just that it happens to women. I think it probably is slightly more, because I think there's more hair and makeup involved. But I can kind of relate. And, one of the people at the Free Britney rallies said that they had a similar experience where they shaved their head because they just couldn't stand people touching them. And, so I was like, it's kind of like the quote from Princess, where she's like, maybe that is the only sane response in an insane world.
So I think it might be even more exaggerated for women because people are very casual about commenting on women's appearance and touching women casually.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be even more exaggerated.
Well, and so the pop stars that I kind of grew up with, Britney Spears, Jessica Simpson, Christina Aguilera, were very well known for getting hair extensions. And not only can those hurt, but they can also be very damaging to your hair. And so what's funny is right before the head shaving incident was the Matt Lauer interview. And if you look at her during the Diane Sawyer interview and compare it to the Matt Lauer interview, she had just had 2 kids. And I think that she was really close to filing for divorce. I think shortly after that interview came out, she filed for divorce. And she was a wreck in that interview, not only like, emotionally, but her hair did not look good. Her makeup did not look good. She was chewing gum during an interview. Like, you could tell that, like, things had gone really, really off track from the very poised, put together, not a hair out of place young woman that she had been. And so looking at her hair then, I was just like, I've always wanted hair extensions, but they, like I said, they can hurt, they can be very damaging to your hair. And with the amount of process that I'm sure her hair went through, constantly being, blow dried and curled and done up and down and all these things, that I do specifically remember a time that hair extensions were all the rage. And then it was like 2 years later where, like, all of a sudden pixie cuts were the rage.
Because everybody had trashed their hair.
Exactly. Everyone had trashed their hair and it was breaking off. And so a lot of starlets went without their hair extension for years and years, and like just pixie cuts became a thing, or the bobbed haircut type thing. So shaving her head, like, the tamest thing that a woman could do, like,
but unless you were a punker, still shocking at that point in time.
Yeah. I see girls all the time now on TikTok who, they have over processed their hair and they're just like, you know what? Just shave it all off and start fresh. So it's not that big of a thing anymore. And I mean, yeah.
Did I ever tell you my hair extension story?
No.
I got hair extensions and I lasted for maybe 72 hours, and I was frantically calling my hairdresser trying to get her to take them out because she used rubber bands to braid them in, and I had an allergic reaction to the rubber bands.
Oh no.
It was horrible.
Wow. Ugh.
It was horrible.
Yeah. There are so many different ways to get hair extensions. I think the kind that were popular with the pop stars were the ones where it was a little bit of a strand of hair, and it had a metal,
like a clip.
Yeah, that they crimped into your natural hair, very, very close to your root. And if it got too close, it would actually rip the hair out, because it would put so much tension on the root of the hair. And so, you over time doing that over and over and over, you have the chance that, you will go permanently bald in spots. And, and then there's sewn in and braided in, and clip-in are still very popular. And, the girl who does my hair, she, I've known her for 10 years now, and she always has hair down to her waist, and they're extensions. And, of course, she's a hairdresser. She does her own, but she is never without her hair extensions.
So, I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking, this is like totally not, kind of on the topic, but such unrealistic things that we women sell to each other.
Right?
Like, I've always wanted amazing, glorious hair. It's not real. It's not real.
Yeah.
And I'm totally guilty. I'm the person who's, dyeing my hair and doing my eyelashes and all of that kind of stuff. But, oh my God. We create such false standards that we then hold ourselves to. And I'm doing this stuff right now because it's fun and it makes me feel good.
Right.
I'm not doing it because I feel like I have to be someone else's standard.
Right.
Right.
I think it was Felicia. It might have been one of the other women, they were talking about when Britney Spears' image was getting sexier, less innocent, which I make the argument that Hit Me Baby One More Time came out and she was wearing a schoolgirl outfit.
And she was 15.
Yeah.
15 when that song came out. And by the way, that was one of the things that I wanted to say, is that they interview that really cool guy who just seems really, really, I hate to use the word woke because I know there are people who get ticked off with the word woke, but he seems really great. And he says, that was not so much about hypersexuality. What girls identified with that in that video was she seemed like she was in control and in command, and that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, she was 15, and let's be honest, little schoolgirl's outfit, completely hypersexualized.
So, here's the thing. And there was actually just a Twitter feud the other day between Cardi B and Candace Owens.
Oh, Candace Owens is a horrible person.
So they were talking about something about her Cardi B's song WAP. And Candace Owens made this really ignorant remark. I'm not even going to repeat it because I'm like, I don't think that that's physically possible, but okay. But I grew up in an era where men dry humped female dancers on stage and slapped their asses and talked about lady in the streets but a freak in the sheets, and
guys still talk about that. They still want that.
Right. But it was no big thing, you know. God, what is that? There's Ted Nugent sings a song about the teenage girl he pretty much adopted then married.
Right.
You know?
I can't even remember what the song is, but because I think
either.
Ted Nugent is disgusting. But
yeah. So here all along, men have been sexualizing women for their own fame and profit, but the minute a woman takes control for herself and puts on those same outfits and starts singing the same words, talking about her own individuality or her own sexuality, her own pleasure, things like that, people are all shocked and chagrined, you know, talking about sex stuff and wearing schoolgirl skirts and, you know, like, shut up.
Girl, I mean, this is totally what we've been talking about for the last hour and a half. It's like, it's totally okay for a man to live by these standards and not get a conservatorship and not get screwed over by his parents. It's not okay for a woman. It's not okay.
Yeah. You know, we were talking about earlier when we were talking about, like, you doing your
Hold that
eyelashes.
thought. I have to say it again. We can be both nice girls and sluts. We are complicated and multifaceted. Now,
right?
Go. Your turn. Me doing my eyelashes.
I loved that when they were talking about her growing up and becoming more hypersexualized, basically becoming a woman. One of the women interviewed said, at some point in a woman's life, we stop trying to please everyone. And I'm like, yeah, at some point we do. Some of us get there earlier than others. And for some of us,
take a divorce.
You know, and I Britney Spears has been, that's something she's kind of strived for all along, you know, like I said, when she was a teenager, you know, rehearsing on stage, I'm not a diva, I know what I want. And then just doing anything she could to take control and break out of the image, the framing, if you will, of what other people were narrating about her. You know, they were trying to keep her in the role that they were comfortable with, and she's like, I'm not that person anymore. I've evolved. I'm different. And so at some point in a woman's life, we stop trying to please everyone.
And you know, I'm just going to put it out there. We also blessedly live in an age where we can say, there's other fish in the sea. There's other fish in the sea. There's other fish in the sea.
Yep.
You know?
And we are also finally coming to the age, every once in a while, we have to remind ourselves and each other that women can date around. Women can sleep around. Because men have been doing it forever and nobody's ever called them out on it. Very rarely.
We still get called out on it.
We do.
Women, well, I shouldn't say women. Some women are enlightened enough that they can be. Some women are enlightened enough that they can be supportive of each other. Not all women are like that.
Right. Okay, so we said we would talk about him. Danny Ramos, the paparazzi that was interviewed.
Okay, here's the thing that I don't like about this dude. I'm just going to say it. He was like, yeah, you know, I mean, basically she told us, she never really told us in so many terms that she didn't want us to fuck around with her.
Yeah. There were days when she would say that, but she wasn't like, leave me alone forever.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the fist fight broke out between the paparazzi when she was going into, I think it was a restaurant to meet someone, and she's trying to walk through probably 50 paparazzi that were inches from her, if not outright touching her. And she is standing there going, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared.
Yes, that was horrible.
Right? Like, that, to me, that's just chilling. And, I mean, a fist fight broke out because, you know, one guy was getting in the other guy's shot of Britney Spears. Like, that would be terrifying. Yeah. So, it was very gross that pictures of Britney Spears could be up to $1 million per photo, depending on what the photo was.
Yeah.
$1 million for a photo. You're paying $1 million to put that on page one or the cover. How much are you making from that photo?
And we're talking like a 20-year-old woman at that point.
Right? For doing some of the most innocuous things. So, I remember, and I didn't remember why it happened, but I remember her driving with her son on her lap. And it was because she didn't have time to strap him in. She was being basically crushed by the paparazzi.
That was when Matt Lauer interviewed her.
Right. And so she just, you know, she didn't feel safe in that situation. So she was trying to get out of there. And you have to remember, at this time, like, paparazzi were actually, like, there were times when they would almost run stars off the road trying to get a shot while in traffic. And, I mean, look what happened to Princess Diana being chased by the paparazzi.
Right.
You know, so people were in physical danger sometimes from the paparazzi. And so that the whole driving with the child on her lap, not a smart move, but I don't know if I'd have made a different decision in her situation.
Okay, can we talk about Matt Lauer?
Do we have to?
I just, you know, I mean, I know that we said it already, but that did not age well. I mean, no, he gets to be judgy about Britney Spears while he's trapping women in his office with a little button under his desk and raping them.
Ugh. I know.
And he was like America's sweetheart for years.
Right?
Ugh.
The Today Show still looks weird without him. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't want him back, but yeah.
Yeah, no, horrible. Horrible human.
And it's funny, like, Diane Sawyer, who we all...
Oh my God, she made me furious.
Yeah.
Furious.
Like, I looked up to her as a feminist icon, you know?
Yeah,
and,
no, she was one of the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. So really quick, back to the most innocuous things that Britney Spears did that they had to get a photo of. So where they were like, she tripped with her child while holding a glass of water in the other hand. I'm
because
like,
nobody else ever does that.
Right? It's not like she was holding a freaking mimosa in the other hand at, you know,
Excuse me.
11 in the morning or something. But, oh my God, she tripped with her child. Like, it happens. Especially when there are, like, hordes of paparazzi chasing you. And I specifically remember one time where I was a little grossed out, I do have to say. It was big news for, like, 2 days. Britney Spears went into a gas station bathroom barefoot.
But you weren't grossed out by anything other than the fact that she was barefoot and it was the bathroom of a gas station.
Exactly.
Because you were thinking about all of the E. coli.
Right?
Yeah.
And like athlete's foot and yeah.
And other body substances that were on the floor of the bathroom.
Yeah. But seriously, I'm not kidding. It was big news for like 2 days that she went into a gas station bathroom barefoot. I can't imagine how much those paparazzi photos sold for, because I remember seeing those everywhere.
I will say that repeatedly what went through my head while watching this was poor kid. Poor kid. Poor kid. Because for most of the time that she was grilled in the media and had those horrible interviews and had the paparazzi chasing her, she was a baby.
Yes. So in the Diane Sawyer interview, it was 2004. And she is 2 years younger than me. So that would have made her 22 when she was in that interview.
Well, and so one of the people, and this is like right before the Diane Sawyer interview or right around the time of the Diane Sawyer interview in the documentary, one of the people that was being interviewed in current times talked about the infrastructure of misogyny and said there is a whole apparatus that will dive in and take a woman down. And I mean, that's true. I mean, when there's blood in the water, there is a whole apparatus that will dive in and take a woman down.
Yeah. So the Matt Lauer interview happened in 2007, which means she was 25. And it was shortly after that she filed for divorce with Kevin Federline. And, I don't know how that guy got custody because he had his own problems when they were in the middle of a divorce. I specifically remember he was young. He was a young, dumb guy. Yeah, and when I say dumb, I mean like he latched on to a beautiful, talented, rich woman.
Exactly.
And rode that as far as he could, and just. I just remember him, and nothing against him. He did great in the world, and he's got 2 beautiful sons. And actually, I think he's got more than that with another woman. But I don't know how that guy ever got full custody, other than she had a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But when she shaved her head specifically, that the paparazzi that they interviewed, Danny, was there, and he was asking, he even said he was talking about it, that, they drove up to Kevin Federline's house and they wouldn't let her in to see the boys. And then they drove to a gas station and they went back, and then they drove back to the gas station or something. And so she had tried to see her sons twice that night and she was denied. And this was after the head shaving incident. She had the bald head. That's when she took the umbrella out and started beating on the paparazzi's car. But you can hear in the video her cousin / assistant, Allie, is begging them to leave her alone.
Mm-hmm.
Begging. And so for him to say, well, for him to have no culpability in the situation, it was just gross.
By the way, I Googled him while you were talking, and he has children by 3 different women.
Kevin Federline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally okay. Now, if Britney Spears had children by 3 different men, that would just be another, she's notching her bedpost. I mean, it would be one more excuse for the media to call her a whore.
Well, look at Taylor Swift. What do they say about her?
Right.
She can't keep a man.
Right.
And I love when she's like, what makes you think I want to keep a man?
Well, and she did the whole album Reputation all about that.
Yep.
Which, by the way, bomb-ass album.
Oh, man.
All right.
So another honorable mention of somebody who had the right idea when everybody else didn't. Michael Moore.
Yes. Oh, I was so glad to see him. Wasn't he on Larry King, or was
Anderson Cooper?
Anderson Cooper. And he was basically just leave her alone.
Yeah, why don't we just leave her alone?
And Chris Crocker. Chris Crocker had a breakdown and they didn't show him.
Chris Crocker an apology.
Yes, we do. And I follow him on either Facebook or Twitter. I think it's Facebook that I get his feed. Because,
I follow Facebook too.
We owe him. Yeah. He was right.
Leave Britney alone.
Yeah, he was totally right.
Yep. Yeah. This was not what I expected. And what's funny is the other half actually watched it without me before me.
Oh, really?
And then watched it again with me.
Oh my gosh.
So, like, it's that interesting. Like, you went into it with the whole, I'm not really a fan of Britney Spears, but it wasn't just about Britney Spears.
No, it was great. And I'm sure that there's more to say, but
yeah.
But I don't know that I have much left in me, because we've been on the phone for a little over 2 hours and we have podcasted for nearly 2. So
yeah. So I'm really glad that Britney Spears does have some way to kind of fight back, and that she's refusing to work. It makes me kind of sad because I think that's an outlet for her.
Right.
But I'm glad that she is taking back some sort of control and refusing to work until her dad steps down as conservatorship or is taken off as conservatorship. And I don't know where she's been, because she was the one that I used to see with her. I don't know, why Lynn wasn't the conservator to begin with, Britney's mom.
Yeah, but that was confusing to me also.
I'm really glad to see that, Lynn is kind of stepping in now too. So, I really hope that,
I know where you're going. You really hope that she gets out of the conservatorship altogether. I don't have a lot of faith in our, quote, justice system, considering that she's been stuck in this for so long.
Yeah, and there's so much money to be earned from conservatorships.
I get it that the people who are in the conservatorship, the people who are on the powerful side of the equation, stand to lose a lot. I don't see why a judge would support this. I don't get it.
Yeah, and I don't see why, the attorney that she tried to hire, I don't see why that he couldn't be shown the medical report that proves that she can't make her own decisions. I mean, as a distinguished member of the court or whatever, you would think that, you're barred from speaking about this, but here's the report of why you can't be her attorney, because she can't make her own decisions. It's weird. It's odd. It's not right. It's not right.
Yeah. I don't have anything else valuable to say, except I was shocked by how much I like this and how much I appreciated that you suggested it.
Good. Well, and, we've been doing some really hardcore subject matter, and I kind of wanted to do a little bit of lighter fare.
This is not particularly light fare.
No, but it's definitely not like child murders.
But it's a young woman whose life has been hijacked by the patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's a young woman whose life has been held captive for the last, 13 years, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. And no end in sight.
Custody and visitation of her children have been held over her head.
Well, and even more so, I mean, you made the point, she can't even go to a doctor's appointment.
Yeah.
Without permission.
Yeah, I mean,
she's earned all of this money and she can't access it without permission.
All you people out there who are like, I don't want Sharia law in my country. Well, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Like, she can't go have a pap smear or buy a car, or without her dad say so.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. So, yeah. I guess look for us on Biters every week. We have 2 more episodes of Walking Dead Prime, and then we roll straight into Fear the Walking Dead. Diane and I are going to figure out what we are going to podcast about next week for the Real Housewives of Alaska, and we're going to get busy watching the 4-hour Snyder Cut version.
Just kill me now. Kill me now.
You know, is it available on Audible? Because I can watch it at double speed.
I think it might be available in black and white. It's just like reading the book.
Right? So I wonder if the Flash is in the Snyder Cut of Justice League, because if I watched him on double speed, he pretty much wouldn't be in the show, would he?
Right? That would be at least a quarter of the movie gone.
Right? So if you would like to join us on any of those podcasts, go watch whatever it is we are going to podcast about. And until then, you girls just watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister. We
are. Have a good week, everybody.
All right. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.